Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of Internet Dads. I was going to say Dad Diaries because we're doing a Dad Diaries special today, Rory.
Yeah, you have to know the name of our podcast.
Dad, that's it.
There we go. You got there in the end.
We've got a backlog. We've got a serious backlog of Dad Diaries. We've got some great stuff been sent in from you guys. We want to go through them. Think of this as an agony uncle special.
I have all the answers, no doubt. Like you're really wise to come here with your conundrums because there is no way that I don't have the exact and perfect answer.
Okay, well, we'll see about that. You guys can be the judge. Let's get straight into it. Dad Diary number 1. This is from someone. He says, "Hi lads, massive fan of the pod despite being a student with no intentions of parenting in the near future," which I have found, looking through the comments and stuff, is actually quite a common situation. I found that it has opened up a lot of questions which I've been able to discuss with my parents, which I like, sharing the knowledge upwards, about their experience when I was younger. So he's finding out from his parents about what he was like. He was wondering what you guys thought about potential reasons for why in some families there is such a difference in behaviour of the children, even extending to adulthood. In an extreme case, how one child may grow up to be a criminal whilst their siblings are completely innocent. But even more generally, how some seem to be extremely spoilt or become bullies, so to speak. I know you've previously mentioned that no two children have the same parents. This guy's been paying attention. But was curious whether you thought there's anything further to this. And perhaps how much you think parents are to blame. This is a really important point, I think. How much parents are to blame for raising both a golden child and also a devil child. Keep up the great work. You're not a devil child, are you, Rory?
No, I'm not.
Did you give your mum any headaches?
Yeah, it was awful. I feel, particularly now I am a parent, I feel incredibly sorry for my mum. She did it all on her own as well. Well, with my nan. Yeah. But, she was effectively on her own. No, I was a real problem.
But I think you were a problem in the sort of, naughty sense. What I think this guy's getting at is potentially like, these axe murderers or something, someone that... Yeah. It's often you watch these documentaries about these like... crazy criminals, killers, whatever. And you find they come from this family and they seem like a loving family. They seem like they had a nice upbringing. They had a couple siblings, and they've just gone down this route. And often that's not the case. Often you can track it back and you see a trauma. Yeah. And you think, okay, even though it's crazy behaviour, there is a link there. But sometimes not, Rory.
Do you know what first came into my mind when you spoke about this? Do you know Whitey Bulger? Are you aware of Whitey Bulger? Gangster from America, from Boston. And there's an amazing brotherhood there, where Whitey Bulger is probably one of the most notorious modern-day gangsters of America. He would try his best anyway, to fund the IRA here. He had like a real affinity with Ireland, grew up in Boston. The reason why he evaded capture and the reason why he was such a successful criminal, or at least partly the reason he was so successful, was because he went into being a criminal mastermind. His brother went into politics.
Okay.
So effectively,
good cop, bad
they've
cop.
kind of all chosen the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just one of them is doing it. One of them is part of a racket that is legal.
Yeah.
The other one is part of a racket that is illegal.
Yeah.
So effectively, though, it would look like they were poles apart, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would look like the siblings had gone in completely different directions. But I'm not sure how separate those ideologies are.
It reminds me of one of my favourite films, which is called Legends of the Fall.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt, and he's got his family, and they're all super tight brothers, but they go in different directions. One does become a politician, and Brad Pitt's like this wild man who was almost raised by Native Americans.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they're almost all pulling in the same direction, but very different ways of going about things. Yeah. But I mean, that's one. I think with the word criminal, which our friend here has used, it's important, obviously, to have some context there. Like, obviously, a crime is a crime, but at the same time, there is a huge spectrum of what that may be. One person may be doing something like inherently evil, and taking people's lives, or something that involves severe abuse and horrible behaviour. But also a criminal could be someone stealing a loaf of bread to feed their family. It could be one of these victimless crimes that against the man, so to speak. So
but I find the concept of siblings fascinating. Anyway, I don't have any, and I've already seen it in my 2 children now, who are obviously siblings. Just the difference.
There is an innate difference, isn't there? It's from birth. There is an innate difference.
Look at you and your brother Seb. Like, just look at the outlook on life. You both were raised by the same people. Your DNA is identical. Yeah. And yet you obviously, in the Venn diagram of Spencer and Seb, Carmichael Brown, there is a huge grey area within that. You both exhibit a lot of the same.
Crossover,
The grey area of your separate Venn diagrams, massive. but then you're so different as well in various
Well,
aspects.
yeah, I mean, let's use that example because obviously we're not talking about one sibling here who's done some terrible crimes or one who hasn't.
No, but I think it's more relatable.
Yeah.
Like, it's more relatable.
In my personal perspective on this, my parents or Seb may have a different one. My personal opinion on how Seb and I can be so similar in so many ways and also so almost opposite in certain belief systems, shall we say, is basically all one of nurture over nature. It's about different experiences. You know, Seb's schooling experience was very different to mine. We went to very different types of schools around very different types of people. I think that's a huge part of it, personally. I think, you know, the different pursuits we had at certain ages as well. Like I was much more, and not to say that Seb isn't a very clever person, he is, but I was much more in intellectual pursuit, like reading certain books and chasing certain knowledge things. Whereas Seb, in his younger years, was very much more financially motivated and wanted to go and make himself a success, which he had great success at, by the way. And obviously, you have different priorities at different times in life, and you kind of meet in the middle at certain points. But as a result, you know, I read certain things which shaped me at a certain time, I think, politically, ideologically. But yeah, we had very similar upbringings. Obviously,
Yeah,
same
of
parents.
course you did. Same household, man.
And
mental.
you do also get brothers. It's very hard for me to see this from the outside. But I'm mainly going off what other people tell me about how similar we are.
Yeah.
Because obviously you don't really see it when you're each other. You see very much you feel yourself in a different
Yeah.
person. But there are a lot of siblings who are nowhere near as similar as Seb and I.
No,
A lot of
of
siblings,
course
yeah.
you're very similar in loads of ways, like loads of ways. But I think ostensibly, top line, you're not.
Yeah.
As soon as you scratch beneath the surface, you are.
Yeah,
But then I
yeah.
see it. Look, I've got a 6-year-old and a baby, and they are chalk and cheese. Like my first Clementine was and still is a complete psychopath. Pandora is easy. Like honestly, if my experience with Clementine was the same as Pandora, there would be a 2-year age gap.
Yeah,
The reason that there is a 6-year age gap is because I was worn out. I was terrified of having another baby. I used to dread the nights.
You need to recover.
I know, yeah, well, this is the thing. This is why I'm cleverer than my wife. Right. This is why I'm cleverer than Victoria, and I'm not even afraid to say it. I think that nature
Is clever even a word, by the way?
clever. I'm more clever than Victoria. I am officially more clever than my wife. And here is the categorical proof on that. Nature is very clever. It tries to trick you into forgetting how difficult it was first time round. In order to procreate, in order to keep the species going, we forget those nights. Nature is programming you to forget quite how relentless it is to have a newborn baby. I didn't forget. Victoria forgot. I am cleverer than nature because I was like, no more babies. Those nights were just a night. Like the first 2 years, in fact, of Clementine's life, it was so difficult. She was so feral, and I didn't want to go back there. Nature tricked Victoria into believing that it was okay.
I think you're touching on something that Alex and I talk about all the time here. I don't know if it's nature per se, or it's maybe female nature or mother nature versus father nature, or if it's like... Because I look at it that same way. I don't look more clever or not, but I look at it as a skill set I have over Alex is I see bad things coming. Like, Al is always so positive. And again, sometimes if you believe bad things are going to come, maybe they become bad. So maybe I'm part of the problem. But Alex is so positive. She's like, I can't wait to do this, this and that. And it's like she's forgotten that last time we did that thing, it was horrible. It was awful. Why do you want to do it again? Because you're kind of like... that you're so focusing on the positive potential of something, you're not focusing on the reality. So I think that is it's a skill in many ways. We're talking it in a negative sense here, but for a woman to just always see the positive side of these familial things and these love things, if that didn't exist in women's characters, we wouldn't have the population we have probably because there'd be a lot less babies running around.
Yeah, well, I would never have had a second child, and I would have been totally incorrect because both of my children are the greatest things ever happened to me.
But if we go,
so luckily, thank God, she kind of persevered.
yeah, exactly.
And also, Pandora's easy.
You know what it is, though?
I could light up a cigar, have a whiskey. I'm on easy street with her.
But if we're digging deeper into this difference between the female and male side of things, there, it's probably that we are. I'm talking about genetically engineered over thousands of years to worry about things and to be prepared for the worst because we've got to fight the danger that comes in. We've got to protect. So we're always going to be look how this could be a bad thing. Hang on. Whereas the woman ideologically, certainly traditionally, is taking care of safety. They just need to worry about nurturing life. So they need to be inherently motivated to have children because that is their thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Again,
absolutely.
generally speaking, don't come at me.
Yeah,
but
some
like,
geezer who wears sandals through London is going to be furious with that.
yeah,
one.
bring him on. I can handle him. But going back to the original question, though, if we take the logic that I feel about me and my brother, for example, which is that nurture, not nature, has created the differences in us, maybe that is an answer to your question here. How can one potentially psychopathic criminal child be a sibling of someone who's completely another way inclined? And it could be life experiences.
But it's only an extension exactly of the point that we've made. We've made a very sane, normal point. You're different to your brother. My children are different to one another. We've only taken that concept to the extreme.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I feel the way I feel about school, right? Because you're going to spend so much, that child is going to spend so much time at school. If there is a particularly negative influence there, be it a bad, irresponsible teacher or a classmate or someone that can actually permeate the psyche of your child and affect them for the rest of their life, which definitely happens, by the way, to some people, you can protect against that. Now, the opposite side of that is you might end up kid gloving them and not giving them the experiences. That's the common rebuttal I experience when I say those things, but that's because they're doing me a disservice and they're thinking that I'm just going to stick my kid in a garage and like have them learn, from some textbook all day and not experience life. It would be the opposite. My kids' lives would be completely open, and our eyes would be opened up to things they would never would have seen in a school. That's what people miss. But the question he sort of ended was like, do you think the parents are to blame? And I think you can never say every case is different. What have the parents done?
No, parents are always to blame.
But what have they done? No, but are they?
Parents are always to
If a
blame.
kid goes to school, in that exact instance I just said, and has some crazy trauma thing happens to them at their school that shapes them ever, and ends up the American school kids that turn up and start shooting up the school, these sorts of things. Now, is that the parents' fault? It depends.
Okay.
It ultimately depends.
That isn't. But
No, but it might be. Because why are they doing it? So if the parent, in my example, has made every decision on the best of their child's life to the best of their ability, has always prioritised their child's health, safety, has not created any significant trauma, and there's no like genetic predisposition to say mental illness or anything like that they've passed down, this stuff can still happen. A child could still be a menace.
yeah.
And then it wouldn't be the parents' fault, would it?
No, you're still responsible for your parents. You're
You can't
still
control their
responsible for your
actions.
child. You can.
What,
You can
at all
up until
times?
mate. If I decide to do something nuts now, my mum's not to blame.
No, that's what he's talking about. He
Oh,
was
right, no,
saying
if I
you
produce
produce a devil child
if
and
I
they
just
kill
dis-
someone later in
Oh,
life,
let's say I decided to do just like some mad roundhouse kick on you now. That's not my mum's fault,
it would be a terrible decision from you. I know exactly what I'd do.
right? But yeah, it would be a terrible decision for me as well. My hamstring wouldn't go. It would get you in the shin if I'm lucky, right? But that's not my mum's fault. But if I decided to do that when I was 9, it would be my mum's fault.
Yeah, no. Well, adolescence, the show. Obviously, this is
Yeah, it's
kind
my
of one
mum's
of the,
fault
one of
when
the-
I'm a kid. It's not my mum's fault now.
I didn't read that as what this person was asking. I thought they were sort of saying like children obviously grow up to do stuff. If in their adult life they become a certain way, is that the child's fault? And I think it's case by case basis. It depends if the parent has done anything to that child or been responsible for something to that child. If it's a child and it's on the child's watch, then yeah, of course you should be controlling that environment better. But something, I mean, how does that stuff happen? That's the bit that really gets me. As mad as it is to hear some adult has done some crazy crime, when you hear a child has done it,
It's so really upsetting, isn't it?
but it's just like
it's
how
sad-
though? How have they become that
Mate,
thing?
It's a really sad indictment of society. And we've touched on this on a previous episode, Spence. When we were talking about kind of maybe how our own personal development. Like I think I said to you, I'm certainly kinder now than I ever have been. This kind of taps into it. There would have been a time when something that didn't happen directly around me wouldn't tangibly upset me. Now, stories and things that happen hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away, can profoundly upset me.
Yeah,
Like you think, what is going on in society where
no.
X, Y, and Z can happen?
Trying to focus on the positive again, though. Do you know what's such an amazing thing? And there's obviously loads of people struggling that we need to try and help, and the world needs to do a better job. But when you see someone, these kids, particularly kids who ostensibly have nothing. Maybe they're in a war-torn country and they've lost their parents, or they're just in very extreme poverty, whatever. And every now and then you see one and they just have this spirit to them, this life to them. And you just think, the fact that you have that, there's so much to learn from that.
Yeah,
because there's so many kids in our culture that have everything and they have nothing about them. And there's so much entitlement. There's so many kids that think they've got it hard because they've got to walk. I know I sound like a proper old fuddy-duddy now, and in my day it was different. Like, Every generation
mate,
has this. But like kids that are complaining because they've got to walk 200 meters to the bus stop or something and get a bus. It's like, you don't know you're born.
I've got. Do you know my friend? But I'm sure you've Addy Oladipo.
Yeah.
Addy's story. It might even be very interesting to have on here. He doesn't have children, but it might be interesting to have on here. Mate, he was born in Nigeria, sent to England for adoption, ended up homeless in England, and now he is the lead anchor of Desire. It's an amazing story. And you know, then when you were talking about like the spirit of people who perhaps have been dealt a fairly tough hand. You know, when I was with one of my best mates, you know, when you like think back to that, he was like literally living on the streets in London.
Yeah.
When I was living in London
He's just playing a different game. He's had to play a completely different game.
Mate, it's unbelievable, isn't it? You know, like that story, and you're like, the only way that he is where he is now is just talent, but spirit.
Yeah.
Like to force your way out of that.
Yeah.
To be a lead anchor of the Zone's boxing coverage.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And like, by no means am I suggesting that anyone should want that kind of life. That sounds, for every one of him, there's probably loads of people that have struggled to get out of that situation as well. There will be, statistically. But there is something in that as well, in that if you're lucky enough to have a child who is in a state of where they don't really need to worry about anything, I think we need to find something for them to worry about. I think it's our job, not that puts them in danger, but I think we need to create some obstacles for them. You know, like
But I think life naturally has obstacles. They'll come across.
Yeah, but we've got a character build. You know, if you're financially very, very stable, for example, you still got to find a way to teach your kids the value of money,
regardless of how wealthy you are. Your kid's got to have a paper round. At 16, you've got to go and work at M&S.
You've got to teach that lesson before it's too late, because once they get to a certain age, that the ability to then create that perspective and empathy.
Paper rounds still exist.
Well, don't know how many people order the newspapers.
That's what I was thinking.
Anymore.
I've just thought I'm going to make sure that my like I did. I had 3. I used to do 3, £60 a week. I used to think I was rolling. I don't think they would exist anymore, would they?
No, my brother did one as well. It just depends how many people are ordering papers, I guess.
None.
No.
Dying art, isn't it?
Yeah. So what is the equivalent? Let us know. What's the equivalent of the paper round these days?
Something on the internet.
And then think about when our kids are of paper round age. That's at least another 10 years away. Then what's the paper round then? I don't even. What is it? Cleaning drones.
It will be working in a supermarket.
Do you want me to? You know,
Supermarkets
I used to knock on people's doors. No, because it's all AI tills now. Any people in the tills. I used to go and knock on people's doors and say, you want your car washed?
Yeah.
Do you want your drone washed?
Yeah.
Do you want your robot washed? I wash robots. I wash robot kneecaps. So I don't know if we answered that question, but I basically just think...
We definitely didn't. Thank you for sending it in.
I think there's too many factors that can create one of these sort of, for quote unquote, evil people that we could possibly allow.
Sometimes as well, you've just got to kind of hold your hands up and go, sometimes people are just lunatics.
Well, I think sometimes there is just a fault in the system. Like there's something that in birth, some little thing in a cell somewhere in their brain.
Yeah, like Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, just a psychopath.
Just fancied eating people.
That's so weird, man. I would never, ever.
Imagine if that was... Imagine, just a horrible thing to think about, right? Just imagine, though, fast forward 20 years, yeah? You have done everything right. You are a parent, and you know, when you go back and do the sort of cataloguing of your life, you're very happy with all your decisions and actions. Yeah. And one of your daughters eats someone.
That can't happen.
No, but what if it does? What if it did, though?
I'd be really upset.
But
it can't happen, no.
But if it did, though, how would you, as a parent, make peace with that?
No, you can't. You can't. I can't even say what
imagine you just got a call from the policeman. Yeah, we got your daughter in custody. Okay, she's killed someone. Okay, this is awful. Just to let you know, she also ate them.
What do you reckon would be worse? What's worse for you? Receiving that phone call like that, or you end up on Jeffrey Dahmer's...
getting eaten.
Yeah, you end up in the room. You know when they're in the room and they're tied up and they're like, "Oh my god, this psychopath is."
I'm about to be eaten.
He's looking at me really dodgy. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Because when you describe a moment like that to me, my default response is that I'll fight my way out of it.
No,
my default response is he won't eat me. He will not eat me. I know. The reality is I would probably be incapacitated and he would be eating me. There's nothing I could do.
Yeah.
But my brain says I'll eat him first.
Yeah,
that's what my brain says.
I mean, if there's ever a time where you would have to fight like a lion, it would be Jeffrey Dahmer about to have his wicked way sexually with you and then eat you. We're
going way off piste here, and I don't know if this is YouTube friendly or not. But if you were like if you were in that Society of the Snow film, you were in the mountains and your whole plane
Airplane,
crashed,
that film.
Would you eat someone?
Nah,
you'd never eat someone.
Nah, I wouldn't eat a person.
Never say never.
I don't think I could eat a human. What part of their body do you eat? I'm not doing this. I'm not eating.
I'm sure we can get someone on. Who knows?
No, you can't eat a person. That's rough.
Even if it's that or death.
I don't think it is though. I
It
don't
is
think
if you're in the snow. If you're in the snow, in the mountains,
Mate,
and you've
there's
been
got
there
to
for
be
a
a polar
month.
bear somewhere that you can catch.
There's polar bears only live in. You know this only live in the north, not south. Or is it the other way around?
What can you eat? Penguins?
One's north, one's penguins, and the other one's polar
Yeah,
bears.
catch a penguin.
You can't get penguins in the north. You can't get polar bears in the south.
Polar
My little
bear-
brother taught me that
Polar bear.
because he has done multiple trips to Antarctica.
Trouble is though, a polar bear fuck you up. You'd have to catch a penguin.
Well, if this is what you come for, guys. I'm about to tell you something now that's going to change your life. Everyone listening and watching to this, remember this, because one day I guarantee at least one person listening to this little rhyme I'm going to teach you will save your life.
Okay.
This is a rhyme about bear attacks. Okay. If this is about the different colours of bears, there's 3 types. Yeah. If they're brown, you lay down. If they're brown, you play dead.
Right.
Because brown bears can cause you damage, but they won't really if they think you're dead. If they're black, you fight back. A black bear is the smallest type of bear. You can scare them off.
Fight
You make
bear,
yourself
mate.
big.
Who do you think you are?
No, you've seen those
Jiu-jitsu
clips.
chat's gone to your head.
You've not seen the clips
I'm gonna
of like, the
fight a
MMA
bear.
fighters that literally grow up fighting bears? The little kids like Nurmagomedov,
If
whatever his
me
name
and
is.
you decided to
fight
have a
bears.
fight with a bear, they would batter us.
No, trust me. You get the black bears, you can fight them. And so if they're brown, lay down. If they're black, fight back. If they're white, good night.
What,
If
you
they're
just
white,
can't-
polar bears, you're dead, mate. If you see a polar bear in the wild, just get your wheel done.
What, it's over.
It's over.
There's nothing.
You ain't getting away. It's game over. They're the biggest. They're the angriest. They're the most tenacious.
Just give up.
Yeah. So just if you catch yourself with a polar bear, that advice won't help you.
I will never
If you're with a
see-
black bear, now you know
I
they're
would
black.
never ever
give
see
it
a
a bit.
polar bear. Do you know why? Because I'm not mental. Like, do you know the only way it could happen to me? Have you ever seen that meme that goes around social media? What is a polar bear doing in Arkansas? Right, it's just the only way that a polar bear could ever get me would be if somehow a polar bear ended up on the Kilburn Highway.
Escapes from a zoo.
Yeah, because
London Zoo, not
I
that
would
far.
never put myself in a position where I could meet a polar
You
bear.
wouldn't go Antarctica. Well, in Antarctica,
No.
there isn't any. In the
Absolutely
Arctic,
not.
The Arctic.
No. My mum really wants to go to Churchill, which is a place in Canada, to see the polar bears. Like, well, it's just not me.
From a distance.
Don't want to go.
Even that Grizzly Man film, the guy who befriended the bears and lived for many years
Did they
lived
eat
with the
him?
bears. They ended up eating him. Yeah.
This
Well,
is
they ended
it.
up killing him at least.
Don't mess with them.
Anyway, that's your answer to that question. So we enjoyed that. Dad Diary number 2. Hi guys, hope you're doing well. Love the podcast so far. Have listened to every episode and can only see it getting more exciting. Hope you're right. I'm 19 years old, raised in Glasgow. Is that the right
No,
accent?
Glasgow.
And have 2 younger brothers, 11 years old and 7 years old. Because we've got 19-year-old Glaswegian, 11-year-old, 7-year-old, all brothers. Assuming this person's a man, which I think they are. An age gap that became necessary due to both my parents' work pathways getting in the way of their family plans. This really has been a blessing for me, as I'm able to part raise my brothers, especially the youngest, due to the wide age gaps. He's got a 12-year age gap between him and his youngest brother. My hybrid brother-father role it's like I think he's a Prius. My hybrid brother-father role has worked well for our family, especially as my dad is only home from work 3 weekends every 4, and for me personally, it's been so fulfilling. We bond over football, taking them to their games to play, watching Celtic, and all the big games Europe has to offer. With this, I've gained so many skills and valuable experiences of parenthood that have shown me some of the indescribable experiences that you both speak about on the podcast that those without kids may never experience. So he's got a little bit of
he's
context himself.
got a parental role as a brother.
Yeah. Throughout my situation, I've been blessed with so many wholesome and proud moments, seeing my brothers achieve so much and make us all proud, which have all convinced me of fatherhood in the future and even given me some transferable skills. My question is, many of my friends are adamant they do not want kids, but I already have a taste of how amazing these experiences will be. So how can I convince them it is almost always a net positive to your life? Is it commitment they're worried about, or are we just young? And how have you dealt with friends and family of these opinions? As I do not want them to miss out on a truly unique experience. We had the whole Chapel Roan episode, didn't we? We talked about her comments about not wanting kids. First of all, never convince someone to have kids. Never convince a person to have kids. It's got to be a them decision.
You reckon?
I don't think you should convince them to. I don't think you should ever convince. If that means they're on the fence, if you're on the fence, you should stay on the fence. In my opinion, in some scenarios, that's bad advice. But in kids, you need to go into it wanting to do it because you still have dark moments after that.
Yeah.
You've got to go in open-eyed.
It's incredibly hard. There's no shirking that. It will change your life, but I don't see how I would encourage everybody to do it. I really would. It makes you
Even if they said, I don't want kids.
No. No, if they said they don't want kids,
that's kind of what you're
no,
saying.
but my words in that circumstance are going to be irrelevant. Like if they aggressively do not want children, you're wasting your breath. If somebody was on the fence, however, I would certainly encourage it. They will never. Have you ever heard of anybody regretting having a child?
No, that's very true. I think it's a very true comment. I mean, if you're on the fence, then you want to hear opinions from both sides to ultimately make that decision. So I'm sure that would be useful from you. What this seems like is a very thoughtful person who obviously enjoys that fatherhood role that you have with their brothers and cannot wait to be a father. It sounds like they're just meant to be. I'm sure they'll be a very good parent. Their friends may not be that.
Yeah.
You don't have to. They're just really
young
caring.
though, aren't they?
They're basically saying that, he's only 19 himself.
Yeah.
He's basically saying that he cares so much about his friends, he doesn't want them to miss out. Like, I would say, look, revisit again in 10 years. These days, 29 is
they'll see
a normal age.
This fellow will see a development within his friends that he can't predict at the moment, I imagine.
Do you know many people? I know this happens to people maybe that end up having kids at say 40 plus. But do you know many people who maybe in their younger years were very adamant they didn't want kids and then just U-turned completely?
I was open to not.
Yeah.
My girlfriend when I was young, my long-term girlfriend when I was young, on and off, boozy relationship, good relationship, but boozy, and she had a kid. And at the time, that kind of did me a bit of a favour because I wasn't sure if I wanted kids. She already had a kid, so that was done. And I was quite happy, potentially not. Foolish from me.
But I
was young and I was working it out.
We talk about this lad here. He's had this exposure to parenting at a young age, if you like, and he's liked it. So just having the exposure isn't what made him liked it. He has the natural predilection for it because you had exposure at a young age and it didn't have the same effect.
No.
So it's a really personal thing. I just think this lad, it sounds like he's going to be a great dad.
I honestly, it sounds like we're of different opinions here, Spence, because I would encourage anybody, even, after you just said, even if they didn't want them, would you still? And I said no, you wouldn't because you'd be wasting your breath. Actually, maybe I would. If they want to hear from me, it's none of my business. For like the vast majority, it's literally none of my business. So I'm not like preaching. I'm not walking around telling people to procreate. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
But if somebody wanted my opinion,
no, your opinion is different.
If their opinion was that they didn't, and then they wanted my counsel, I would say do it.
I think the difference is this. It's absolutely fine to share your opinion of parenthood, i.e., I love it. I think it's great. For me, it's great. The minute you say, I think you should do it, you don't know enough about their situation, their psyche. You can't put yourself in their shoes. So I would never say to someone, you should definitely have kids.
No, but what happens if they said to you, what do you think I should do?
Well, I would say, if you don't know yet, then I would say don't do it yet.
If somebody were to say to me, what do you think I should do? I would go 100% have them.
I would probably say to them,
regret it. It will make you. It will improve your life beyond. And also, if nothing else, if maybe your fear is that you're quite selfish and you don't necessarily think you have enough to give, look at it from your point of view. Someone to look after you when you're old.
Yeah, well, yeah, true. I think there's so many different factors. Again, there's no one answer for this. I'd probably try and better understand their reasons for being on the fence. Is it a financial one? You think your job might change? I would never really argue in favour of that because you're always going to have a reason to not do it. And there's always going to be
never
a
a good time to have a kid.
Me and now have so many moments, like these purgatory moments where like, we really want to do this, but we just need to wait for this to happen. There's always a thing you've got to wait to happen. One of my favourite books, which funnily enough, as in favourite kids' books, which my little boy hates. It's the only book he refuses me to read to him. It's my favourite, which is Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. I love that. It's a great book. It's a great, some people get, it's almost like a speech for people about to finish university or school or something. It's a really good book. But because it hasn't got any characters, he doesn't really like it. For him, yeah. But there's a whole section in that called The Waiting Place. And it's like so many people are just waiting to go, for the bus to come or the job to change or da-da-da-da. And I think so many people, including me at times, have been in that state. Yeah. That's not a great place to be. But I would say if they're not sure because they're not sure about their own mental state at that time, I'd say, well, maybe don't do it. I would maybe give it some time. If they're not sure because they don't know if they even like kids or like the concept of losing the next 20 years of their life, I would say maybe give it some time. Maybe get some things off your bucket list. Go and tick them off and see. Yeah. Because eventually that bucket list does run out.
But I would also just say, just have kids, man. It'll be the making you.
Just have them.
Just have them. Mate, they're fantastic.
We'll have a look.
They're fantastic little things, aren't they? They're fantastic little things. You're never going to regret it. You're never, ever going to regret having a kid.
No. Well, no.
You might regret not having a kid, but you're never going to regret having a kid.
I think net value is true.
They're
you're never
really
going to
cool
go,
as
we
well,
shouldn't have done
They're
it.
funny, they're cute, they're beautiful. They enhance your life to a level that you can't possibly predict. The only thing with regard to this guy specifically is your pals are 19. So no,
Yeah,
not yet.
Yeah.
But
We've got time.
over the next decade.
Next Dad Diary. Hello. I was wondering if you have any advice on what to get new dads as gifts. My brother's baby is due any day now as the pregnancy has been induced, but I want to get him stuff that makes him feel seen and appreciated as well. What stuff would you recommend? Is the best dad mug absolutely shite? Probably got one in here, haven't we, in the set somewhere?
I don't think you don't need to buy the dad a present.
It's not a push present. I guess it's a
No,
pull present?
The dad does.
A cutting present?
Mate, he's a very kind chap, but you don't need to buy the dad a present. The dad is the least. You buy the kid
get
and
the
the
mum
wife.
something,
Yeah.
and then maybe think about that. But this is how far we've come as society, guys.
we get
This is a lad. I assume again, this is a lad. Most of our listeners probably are. Asking about his mate, he's about to have kids, and he goes, "I want to make him feel seen." We've come so far in life, haven't we? Dads, blokes wanting other blokes to feel seen. Not in my dad's generation. No one felt seen. I don't think.
Seen.
No, I mean it's a lovely thought, and I don't think there's anything wrong. I think you definitely should get something for the baby and the mum as well. Like there's
Just
definitely
go down to White Company, buy the kid a present, get the mum something lovely.
I mean it's practical stuff. Practical stuff. Whether it is like some food vouchers, because things like cooking are hard to do. One present that a friend of mine got for me, and then I ended up paying it forward. I obviously kept our one, but I bought that same gift for like 2 or 3 people. Is this thing called You and the Sheep? Have you had that on the You and the Sheep? It's like a little sheep.
The little where you
plays
press
the white noise.
Yeah, mate, I had that with Clementine.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very common
press
gift.
the foot and he makes the white noise. Yeah,
and we used
still
it.
About.
We used it a lot for our oldest, and I've bought that for a few people since then. So yeah, I think something just thoughtful, mate. Like the best dad mug, I would probably say, listen, no one's going to not want it. Everyone likes a gift, but you could probably do something a bit better.
Also, you're being incredibly kind here, and your heart is undoubtedly in the right place. But your friend, the boy, needs nothing. He's completely
It
irrelevant.
needs to be seen.
Oh, shut up.
Do you feel seen, Rory?
I don't feel seen. Mate, it's completely... What are we doing? What are we talking
Do you
about?
feel seen?
I feel seen. If you think that you have the right to say that as your kid is born, you are a complete and utter moron.
You know, my favourite film is Good Will Hunting, right?
Great film.
And in that film, when they're having the Robin Williams as the psychiatrist talking to Matt Damon, and he's trying to break through Matt Damon's hard nut exterior, and he's like, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And because he's had this abuse history, and in Will Hunting, he's like, "Yeah, I know. He's like, it's not your fault." He's like, "I know. It's not your fault." And eventually breaks him down. I'm like, Rory, do you feel seen?
Mate, yeah, you would
No, do you
definitely
feel
provoke
seen?
a reaction with
Do you feel seen, Rory? Do you feel
Can you
seen?
believe that men talk?
I'm going to get through at some
mental,
point.
isn't
Do
it?
you feel
I don't
seen?
feel seen, or I don't want to be seen. I don't have a right to be seen in this
But
context.
why don't you have a right? We're getting into the. This is the
Look, he
Freudian
thinks
stuff
he's Dr.
now.
Melfi. Look at him go. Look at him go. Mate, that's wild, isn't it?
I don't think Rory feels seen. Pass it on. Put it in the comments. Right, final Dad Diary, and I really enjoy these, so keep them coming in. Hi guys, hope you're well. I'll start by saying I've been a massive supporter of you guys for a long while. I was an all-in nerd about the first Wembley Cup, good lad, and beginning at #United when I was a kid. This shows you how people have grown up with us. About a month or so ago, I started listening to the pod in preparation for the birth of my son, who was born last week.
Well done, lad.
Oh, they've come. They've arrived. This is literally exactly why we started the pod, isn't it? That knowledge that people have grown up watching this content, our content, and now they're of this age. So I love that.
Congratulations, sir.
I always feel weird because I don't know the names of these people that have written in anonymously, but let's just say good lad. I'd firstly like to add I found the podcast massively helpful, and I've been myself feeling way more prepared and confident in my abilities as a father. We're doing a good job.
There we go.
Service for society here. However, there is a however. I have a few things that I'm struggling with. The sleep.
Oh, mate.
I work a very high-stress job, running my own small business, and normally I can work till 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, then sleep 6 hours straight and be good to go for the next day. However, I have now learned that this doesn't work. My question is, what should I do sleep-wise? We've tried the shift work, but my partner and I both end up waking up and helping each other. Is there a better trick to sleeping and waking up at night? At the moment, I'm staying awake, but nearly falling asleep before the changeover, and I worry about the boy crying. Any advice?
Yeah, the change. I've got huge advice here. Don't do it like that.
Okay.
That we made a mistake with Clementine 6 years ago. We made a mistake where we sort of did it together. All that happens is you both end up knackered.
Yeah.
So there's that I can guarantee is not the way, because you both end up irritable. You both end up knackered. What you need to do is prioritize one another, and I think that it's a great recipe for a good relationship generally. Or you suggest that she sleeps more. She should suggest that you sleep more. And ultimately, if you prioritise one another, you'll be all right. What we do is I do 2 nights a week. The difference that I have, and if he says it's his own business, maybe he can do this. When I do the night, when Victoria wakes up with Clementine 6-ish, I hand over and then I go back to bed for an hour or 2.
Yeah.
So I'll go to bed from 6 till 8:30. Do the school.
Everyone can operate on a certain amount of sleep, can't they? We know about all the health benefits of sleep, and generally everyone needs sleep, but there's definitely people that can do it with less. I've seen it. I'm not one of them.
No,
people
I'm not,
can
honestly,
operate on less sleep. I think as we get older, it gets easier as well.
You can't do it together, though.
No.
Did you agree with that? What you can't do is both be awake.
Yeah. So no, definitely not. We've had a different tactic on child number 2, partly because there is a second one, and you kind of have to delegate and share skills. You can't just go, we're going to have the exact same existence doubled. And I think, again, not trying to upset anyone here, but just trying to say how I truly feel is, I think as a society, we've moved into this, like, everyone did the same thing mode, which doesn't necessarily work. Like, the equality of outcome and the equality of opportunity, all these things is very important. But the equality of existence, like having the exact same existence, whether that's a man or a woman, is not necessarily something that we should aspire to as a society. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Whether that is the man going out and working and providing for family, and the mother having more of a, familial, certainly in the first few years, life. Like, I know there's women that don't want to do that and they want to work, and more power to them. They should get that opportunity. Their best version of life is probably going to be found when they have a fella or a partner who can counterbalance that and maybe has less ambition. But if you have two really do you know what I mean, less work ambition. If you have two,
like catch this guy.
If you have two very work hungry, ambitious, head down people, without outside help, that parenting phase can be really hard, and as a result you might not even end up doing it.
No, you can't do that.
But also I don't think you need
right. Effectively what you're saying here, but you're being very
I'm saying play to your
tactful.
strengths is what I'm saying.
But you're also being very tactful and going, Alex or the female with the relationship does the nights. Does
so
the majority
this
of the
time around, yes. So we shared it a lot more with the first one. This time, really, I do more with our oldest, and I've done nowhere near as much hands-on with our new child. That's 100% definitely true. But I've spent so much more time with our oldest child than I had previously. So, and obviously you want that to level out over time. Of course you do. But it's also about, like, what are our jobs? Like, what is our day-to-day? What's the difference here? What I try and do is very similar to what you suggested, which is, you have and right now we're in the eye of the storm. Right, we talked about it a few weeks ago with this #Raise we've been doing, and also I've been going to Lisbon and Munich for the Champions League finals, America for our football tournament. Like, said to Alex the other day, I'm like very aware I'm basically non-existent as a parent right now, and I feel awful about it. And when you couple that with Alex's, we've got a family health issue at the moment as well that Alex is going through. We're all going through, obviously. And I'm so aware. And I said, we constantly try and make decisions together. And I say, should I just sack off these trips? Like, we're in charge of our own destiny, ultimately. We don't have to do them. And we make decisions together. And Alex knows that if she asks me to come back from any of them because of an emergency, I will be there. If we don't go at all, that's fine.
Mate, you don't have to justify
it's a group decision. It's a group decision.
You are the earner. You have opportunities to earn money. It sounds very glamorous because you're talking about Champions League finals and stuff, which it obviously is. You're incredibly privileged. You're aware of that. But it's your job. It's effectively you're going to the game, but that's your work. It could be driving a cab. It could be being a scaffolder. It just so happens that your work is quite glamorous.
It's a very unpopular thing to say.
You can't apologise for that. It's just what it is.
No. Listen, there's no issue with Alex.
No, I don't mean apologising with Alex. I mean apologising
world.
on this video as we talk about it.
I think it's a very unpopular thing to say, but we delved into it a bit a few weeks ago, and we talked about your job and your character, or not character, but your performance aspect of your job, for example. Listen, as sad as that might be to hear and admit, there's a massive part of that of me as well. Like, would I be going to some of these gigs if I wasn't getting paid to be there?
No.
Like, does that mean I don't like them? No, I enjoy them. But what it means is I'm a parent. I'm a parent of 2 children, one of which is very young. And if you ask me if both things make no money, I'm obviously going to be at home.
Yeah.
I would not want to go to those things. But sometimes you're talking about considerable things.
Alex does the majority. Look, Victoria does the vast majority as well. What I try and do, and it isn't always possible, but what I try and do, 2 nights. So twice, I'll do the night with Pandora. Victoria will sleep through. I'll hand over at 6 a.m. and I'll go back to bed.
We're in different stages as well.
This guy, I would suggest
He's in your stage. Yeah. Your baby's a newborn. Obviously, I've got a 1-year-old.
I would say to this guy, try the 5-2 split. So you've got to work. So 5 nights a week, you get the perfect night's sleep. You can go to bed at 7 and you can wake up at 6. You can do what you like. But twice a week, your wife or girlfriend or whatever the relationship is, she can totally forget. You will bottle feed. and she will sleep through twice a week.
I think what you've got to try and do,
very valuable.
whether it's the 5-2 setup or something different, what you've got to try and do is look out for each other, like you say, and notice patterns. Sometimes the person will be the last person to say, I'm struggling or I'm really tired or whatever. And when you know your partner inherently well, you will notice it in them. And then that's what I'm sort of there now. If I'm being really honest, I feel in this position right now. I think we both feel it about each other.
Yeah.
I think she's looking at me and seeing the hours I'm working and doing stuff that not a lot of it is not my favorite things to do at all. And she's almost a bit worried about me. And I'm looking at her and seeing what she's going through with her family, but also
and the children.
And I'm like, I wish these two things weren't happening at the same time.
You're prioritizing each other, which I think is the best foundation for any relationship. Always look out for the other one. But final word on this, Dad Diary.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, do not do it together. Don't both be knackered. Don't both get up. Our good friends were doing that until we were like, what are you doing? Yeah. One would wake up and do the feed while the other one would go down and do the bottle or do the nappy. And you're like, you're both
it's the guilt though, isn't it? Knowing that one of them's asleep. If you're asleep, you think, oh, I'm going to go down there doing tomorrow. No, it's that you're completely right. You're completely right. I'll just caveat that and say I think every situation's different. I think every situation you have your strengths, your weaknesses. You have some mums and dads who take to parenthood like duck to water. Some it's a slow burner and they have to be almost handheld through it, like on both sides. Yeah. So you've got to just see those things.
The other thing to bear in mind, which is very important as well, for just how you feel about it, this will end. The situation that you're in, this lack of sleep, however bad it is, even if you're waking up every 45 minutes, every hour, if you're doing trust me, this time next year, you're sleeping as much as you like. I think bear that in mind. This time next year, you're sleeping for as long as you like.
With one child, it gets okay.
It gets okay very quick.
Yeah, especially if they don't have sleep issues long term. Like I think with parenthood,
1 year.
Yeah, and again, every child's different. Like we didn't find sleep too bad. Alex would probably say something different to that at first, but then it didn't. It had lots of peaks and troughs.
Yeah,
we had to like sleep train, and it was like a bit harder at times. But I would say with parenthood, you're in for like a 20-year journey. There's gonna be loads of tough periods. But in general, I think sleep deprivation is probably like the hardest because then everything else in your life is shit. If you're sleep deprived,
mate, you can't deal with anything.
Bad.
You can't deal with anything. Yeah.
If you've got some sort of traumatic incident or big issue to deal with, if you're
you
slept
can't get
and
on
you
the tube if you haven't slept. Like you can handle anything if you've had a kip.
Exactly. 10 years from now, hopefully we never have to deal with them. But if there is some big dramatic event, but we're rested and we're comfortable in our life, we can tackle it head on.
No doubts.
So hopefully that helps. I think generally when you get these
Dad Diaries.
Yeah, I do too.
Keep them coming in. Please send us in your Dad Diaries and we'll do our best to help and then we'll probably butcher it.
What you're never going to get is a black and white. This is the right answer because we don't know, guys. We do not know. He thinks he knows. The difference to him is he thinks he knows. I know I don't know, but I know that he also doesn't know. You know?
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. This has been an emotional ep. I mean, I don't really know what to make of the advice that we gave, but we did do our best. We hope that it's helped on some level. We obviously really hope that you've enjoyed the app. Please do us a favour if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe. Get us in your Dad Diaries as well. We really do want to go through some more of those. And we will see you all on the next episode of Internet Dads in a bit.